The art of conversation, the art of dialogue and talks, just a few notions on that, because I've just been speaking about some of the traits some of my friends had, and the ability to enter into a talk and a dialogue, or a long walk with a talk on a variety of issues, um, made me realize that this is not something many people knows, because I've tried it with others and they didn't even relate, and they couldn't enter such kind of talks. It was like something that, like a break, where you all the time just finished anything you started. People weren't interested. And in the newer generations today, I find it a lacking ability, because people are more and more on the monologues and talking to themselves, or just listening and receiving. It all started with the television, where we started being more receivers than interactive, and it became more and more where we are more and more receivers, and not interacting with what we are doing or saying, where we have to also uh, use the energy to be part of the talk. We can just receive and think what we like, or maybe not think at all. And that's the situation we're in. And that's why when I sit with younger people, also from my family and kids, it's not easy to have a conversation that goes for a long time, and dialogue. Sometimes it has something to do with what kind of person you are, and sometimes has to do with how much knowledge you have on that topic you are talking about. That's very natural. You cannot be in dialogue about anything, especially if you don't have anything to say about it, or it doesn't interest you. But what I want to focus on is the ability to go into a dialogue about everything. And it all starts with the ability to ask questions that are coherent with the topic, and respectful and curious questions that makes the topic more thrilling, and goes to the far corners of it, or give it some details. And the way to go about dialogue is, I must in the beginning just mention Wesley Cecil. I loved this professor from day one. I heard him many years ago, and he has this YouTube channel where he also talks about the art of conversation, and mentions the old saloons and things like that. But he does not go. He mentioned it historically, and as part of the ideas, the sphere of ideas he was talking about. And he doesn't go into details about the conversation itself and the art of it. I know there are other videos and people that must have been speaking about this, but this is from my experience. What should be in consideration, what tools we should have with us, and we should learn to take with us to a conversation. First of all, the open mind to learn, because any person you meet who want to talk to you, even though they feel annoying, or can actually be annoying, the way they talk, or give you a lecture, or the way they speak and move, it can be sometimes like, deflecting from the issue itself. And that's, what is this guy or woman or person trying to tell me? What do they have on their mind? And how can I be curious about it? The other thing about dialogue is that it's the human being that's important in it, and not the issue itself. It's about the perception of the other human you are sitting with, and the limits of that perception. Can you widen it, open it, or can you widen your own horizon and perception by relating to that person? So it's a kind of interaction with the human behind the conversation, and not winning the conversation or argument in it. And if you can live with that, you will have a lot of beautiful moments in such kind of dialogues and meetings, because once you show the human interest, and you show the person who is talking, even though they could be awkward, or the way they speak isn't just the way you would like to listen, um, if you are curious, honestly, and trying really to understand that human behind the talk and the ways of saying it, you will open your mind to new ways and gates that will be with you later in life as an experience. So the dialogue is about the human behind, and showing the interest in that human, and showing understanding. And that's the third thing. Always to be understanding and percepting, like trying to put yourself in the shoes of the other one. What is his world and how does it look like? Not judge from the beginning. It's okay to have your judgmental mentality with you, because that's what protects you from swallowing anything you hear and listen to. And that's also what makes you being able to separate the topics, what's interesting and what's not, and maybe also directing and redirecting the talks in the ways that you want to learn more about, because people can wander in all kind of directions, like I'm doing in these monologues. If I had someone to talk to now, this person would probably interrupt me and say, yeah, it's interesting, but could you maybe tell me more about the point you just talked about earlier? And so to tap in the points that get lost in the conversation or maybe never explained, that's part of what a dialogue can do, and the talk can bring forward, which you can't by talking to yourself or not having the dialogue. But so the purpose of such a dialogue is to improve and to evolve and to get new perspectives on yourself and life, and to become, it's like you are having part of the circle, but you're not having the full circle. And by going into a dialogue, it's like you are circling around everything you are talking about. And so by keeping an open mind to these things and being curious with the right questions, you will be in the circle of dialogue in a very good manner. And then when you once are there, you have at all times to uphold the respect for your partner or the other person that's in there, and always also have the self-respect that if the other is stepping on your toes or saying something that's hurting, to explain it in an assertive way, not an aggressive way, but in a way that just tells the other part, this topic is actually making me feel bad, or the way you are saying it isn't just the way I would like to hear it. Could we please talk about this in another way, another manner? But the good conversation partner will never get there and will never lead you there. They will always be as touchy and respectful and careful not to hurt you as you are not to hurt them. And those are the ideals, the ideal partners you can talk to. But that's not always who you meet. Sometimes you go out and you meet some people very rude and tough and difficult to talk to, and there you need to have patience, and you need to be a big silo that just, and the swamp, SpongeBob or what you call it, just to swallow insults or put them aside and not take them personally. Because once you are in a dialogue with a person and he's sitting at your table or you're sitting at his table drinking the coffee, then you have to have this swamp and silo with you just in case, because it doesn't help go offending people in their own living rooms unless things are just gotten out of hand. But if people are in a way that can be annoying or tiring in the conversation, or they are trying to ask you in ways that feel disrespectful, try to relate that this is a minus in them. But your perfect dialogue partners, you will enjoy every time you talk with them and you have this conversation, because they are good listeners and they can relate to you and they can ask you the right questions, and they are always careful not to step on your toes or hurt you with their talk, and they are always curious to let you speak and speak out, and sometimes show both your mind and feeling in a way that makes you satisfied. And the same goes for you. You will listen to them and you respect their mind and ideas and experience. And that's a key word. Many people today just relate to their own experience. They do not respect the experience of others. And that's why we don't listen to teachers or preachers and people talking to us about their life anymore, because maybe many people just gotten so self-occupied and consumed that their relation with others doesn't matter, and maybe it's just a shallow thing, an interest. You get what you want, it's a work relation or a exchange of goods relation or information, and that's it. There is no interest, genuine interest in the person behind. And that's what dialogue gives you. It gives you the interest in the person behind the talk, and it gives you a way to get through to the other person's life and memories and feelings and emotions and mind. So it's also a basis of trust. Once you enter that circle of dialogue, you are into the basis of trusting the others and letting them trust you, because you're gonna open up with time, talking about things you usually don't have easy talking about here and there, and they will do the same. They will start sharing things with you that they are maybe feeling hard times sharing, or they usually don't share with many people. So trust is a big issue, and if you can't keep that, you're committing a crime against these people's that person's feelings. So keeping the trust of another man or woman in a talk and a conversation, especially if it gets more and more intimate and it becomes dwelling on the more hidden side of that man or woman's life and or your own life, that needs a big trust, and that only comes with time. So when you are into that circle, you will travel along, and you will travel along these lines of the talks, and suddenly you are on a deeper layer of talks that you didn't imagine. Sometimes it's the horizon that occupies you, meaning that sometimes it's the big issues, the abstract thoughts, it's sometimes the feelings of the whole world that you are talking about, the politics, the idea of God, and how people go through suffering, or why life is like this, and the stories of people here and there that these people know about, or have people they have met. So you start like opening your mind to big horizons, and you can go into layers of depths at the same time. And that's very, very amazing and beautiful. That's what people are seeking in therapy, but they just don't get it, because mostly these therapists have 10 clients, and they most of them try to relate to you, but they're not really relating. It's just a manual they are following, like somebody answering the phone and giving you advice on how to fix your computer. And the second thing is, people feel it's nagging them. They have to pay so much for each time, so they want to get through it. And when you have free dialogues with beautiful minded people, it's a kind of a free therapy you're getting. And I established that in my life, and I never regret it. And these people maybe felt the same way, because suddenly here was a guy they could reflect something in, or be a game changer for, or it gave them some value in a way or another that they didn't have before. And I got some value I didn't have before. So there is also exchange of a lot of value, but it comes with time, and when the trust is established. And sometimes you just feel you have this chemistry with people, and they have these notions of respect and carefulness that makes it easy. Sometimes it's difficult, and you go embarking on a journey of a dialogue with someone you're traveling with, or who comes to visit you, or you meet in a cafe or somewhere, and you can feel from the beginning this is not gonna last long. But what do? You keep respectful, you keep curious, and you keep an open mind, and you try always bringing the bridge over to the other side in that dialogue. And even if they get breaking it or throwing arrows back at you, you deflect these. You go into your silo and you let it go by, and you do not react to it, because you'll just waste your time. But you can in yourself judge that this person is unfortunately not able to continue with me in this dialogue, or I'm not able to get through to build a bridge of talks, because it needs bridges. You are on two different shores, seeing the world maybe much different from each other. And if you are intolerant, basically, and just want to judge the other and throw arrows, or convert the other person, being a missionary with a hardcore message, not understanding that this person may never walk with you on the same line that you are walking. That needs a lot of tolerance and understanding that people might not change the way you think you're changing. If you have a mission with that talk, then it will break down. And sometimes you have people who directly distrust you and maybe show you that, or they talk about things you cannot relate to, and that's what you need to deal with in the beginning of any talk, and to know if you can establish a dialogue. But finding dialogue friends is important. And what I mean is not only talking about shallow issues. What's shallow issues and everyday life issues? It's like uh, how you did your nails or the cooking, or that's important to have time to do talks about that as well. And don't neglect that in your dialogues with your friends, because that's also part of life, to speak about what you've been doing or fixing, or things that's broken, or a small thing that's like a stone in the shoe that other person has to fix or deal with. Um, and that's why dialogues is not always about big ideas, but the importance about dialogues is that it takes you from the shallow and everyday life talks, digging into deeper layers, or maybe it starts out with a big issue. That's why it's good to have something to talk about. And many people choose novels because they can dig into some characters there and talk about it from different angles if they have time enough. But I can see in some of these reading clubs, it's all about just defining the character there, and having this common understanding that, oh, that, yeah, okay, we agree, she's like this and that, and they go on. And then it becomes shallow and narrow-minded, because they're just agreeing and going on. And if there is some lady sitting in that group wanting to open up for a deeper dialogue, they get irritated. Let's get on, because we have 10 other characters. And the book of this guy, Sing Sang Sung, or what he's called, is 1,000 page. So we have a lot to get through in just two lessons. and people waste their time on that. So take a measure of a book or a story or an issue to talk about, to have something in between you, like you have bread on the table and you have cookies and coffee or a cake. There is something in between you. There is an issue you want to talk about. It could be a very fine small book you share, or an idea, or it could be a story you've heard or read, or it could be something personal you want to discuss with that person. It could be something that's troubling you in ways you haven't felt before. It should just be very, very ordinary things. I guess the point is clear. So have time to talk about ordinary things, but start getting into the deeper issues. If there is something you want to explore, do it in that conversation. Say, listen, you seem to know a lot about that culture. Could we have a talk about what you have experienced there? Because I'm very curious. Maybe you're not in depth curious, and maybe you don't have time to know everything about that culture that person is from or has dealt with. But that's an opener, because once this person is talking about these things, you will start relating, and you will get the mirror into your own life from these experiences. And then suddenly you will remember one thing that happened to you that's very similar to what this person is talking about, and then you can dig deeper into that together. And that's what I'm trying to say about the dialogues and the importance of it and the keys to it. It's basically to enter the circle with respect and dignity, and to respect the boundaries of the other, to build the trust, and not to be judgmental but understanding. And you go there with an open heart and mind, and your intention is to broaden your horizons and see more perspective of the world, and to get into that other person's universe, their experience, to respect that other people have other experiences that's maybe shallow or wrong, or you do not agree, but nonetheless they stay their experience. And if you want to influence it, you can do that. It's not wrong or bad to go into a dialogue because you have a mission to change the other person or to make inspiration in that person's life, but never become intolerant and never become harsh. Just give it time, and accept that you can put your, in a circle of dialogue, you can put your ideas forward and on the table and let the other understand them, and then let the persons reflect on them, or maybe take them with him or her and use in their own way and life. And so that's the depth of the dialogue. And many times it starts with a meeting and an understanding, and then it goes on. And sometimes it's because you have common interests. But I've also met with people with no common interest, but we could anyhow obtain these dialogues, because I would listen and tap into what this person is saying like a good teacher, like just saying, okay, but what happened then, and how did you fix that, or why that interest for that case? Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever dealt with such kind of trouble while you're so show the interest in the person behind the story and behind the issue, and you will find that relation, because people want to be seen and heard and understood, and they also want to tell you about some things they have with them. And I've sometimes talked to very troubled people, like people who really have shaky psychological issues and mentality. And I am not the best of containing these people, or maybe just showing them understanding. I can also oppose them, and that should be all within the circle of dialogue, that you can oppose each other and you can say, I listen, this is my limit. I really don't follow you here, or this is out of reach of my understanding. Why are you doing this? This is not good, or this is making it contradict the other thing you said. But when you are in the circle of dialogue and the respect is there, and the person knows you're interested in his story, you are genuinely interested in that person, then you can also oppose, you can criticize, you can say no, and without shattering the relation, because the other person understands you are already relating to him or her, and you have built that trust. And that's what people pay thousands of kronas and dollars to do when they go to these therapists who have thousand clients. And I call them the quacksalvers of our time, because 90% of them take the education to earn money, and they do not have a wise understanding of life and people. They use it as a way of living, and they use it as a manual. It's like people sitting at a front desk help and saying, hello, how can I help you today with your computer? What's broken down? Give me access. Let me see from the inside, and I will help you fix it. And that's what they think it's about. It's about getting access to people's mind and hearts and giving them some traits and help them fix it. And for some people it works, because they are not so shattered, or maybe they have things to deal with. They have not so many things to deal with, or one issue that they couldn't see, and this person helps them see it. So I'm not underestimating the value of therapists, but they are highly overestimated, in my opinion, in these decades. And I've never paid for these therapists, even though I've had times where I needed it. So I went the other way, the way of dialogue and opening up to friends in these circles and having these deep talks, and sometimes just shallow, narrow talks, or political discussions, or what's going on in our lives and the world. And that helped me a lot, finding the meaning in things. I know people doesn't have time to that, but they should find time once a week to have time to sit and have a good and deepening dialogue with a friend, not only being on that shallow level of confirming each other, drinking a beer or a tea or coffee, and just confirming each other, watching a football match and thinking everything is fine, but also dig deeper. Say, listen, there has been an issue troubling me for some time, and once the football match is over and you can talk, you should have the time. So that's what dialogue is about, is reaching the other person in a circle of trust, and getting into layers of depth and horizons together, traveling into ideas and spheres of meaning, and bringing up words, maybe books, maybe thoughts, maybe just some comic strip. It doesn't matter. It's about that journey that's in it, and reaching the other person and walking that journey together. And I hope I will get more friends and people, also new kind of friends and people, where I can embark on these dialogues and journey of talks, understanding them, talk to them and relating to their stories, and they maybe listen to mine as well, or relate to my comments as well. I hope that, because that would be, for me, it's always beautiful. There is always something in every human that I find new, and I find very special, and that I can learn from and gain some what can you say, some value from. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The value of dialogue and the art of it. And I would recommend, once again, Wesley Cecil's talks, not about these issues specifically, but on the history of ideas. He has inspired me a lot, and I like really listening to him. But I'm just giving out what I experienced in the dialogues that's maybe on a detailed level, and also just to share an experience that will correlate with some of these history of ideas that Wesley Cecil and others are talking about. So I hope this gets out to someone who needs it and finds it and can relate to it. And you are also welcome to knock on my door or try to find me if you want to embark on such kind of talks or dialogues, or just quiet and easy meetings of that kind.